We are on page Zion. Three lines from the top. The line begins with the word mute. And we are in the middle of being explained the principle that even though from our perspective the principle of higher and lower is viewed as that which has more or less oir. An increase in oil means that it's higher, an decrease of oil means that it's lower. However, the Rebbe explains this is not really the cause, the full principle behind higher and lower. The truth is the opposite. That which is higher is inherently higher by definition. Because it's higher, that's why it has more oil. Not that the increase of oil is what makes it higher, but because it's higher, there is an increase of oil, and that which is lower is inherently lower, and that's why there is, and then automatically, by definition, it will be less oil. But not that the oil is what makes it higher, makes it lower. Now, third line from the top, after the parentheses, according to this, who it comes out, Shamadrego, Shehi, Eliena Be'etzen, that this Madrega which is Eliena, the upper Madrega, Be'etzen. In essence, and it says in parentheses, to the extent that's in essence, Mitzad Shorshu Mekoira. It is above, it is the upper Madrega, not on a functional level, but from the perspective of its root and source. It's rooted in this in Ein Sof at the higher Madrega, or in a manner that it is higher, in the upper Madrega. And therefore this Madrega that is by definition higher, Netzlo b'bchinas kiruf. That Madrega emanated b'bchinas kiruf in a close up manner, meaning closer to the source. Hainu, which would mean b'bchinas elyoyin shel kav. It has emanated b'bchinas in that proximity that's called Eliezer shel Kav, the topmost realm of the Kav. The Kav, this is the spheres as they emanate from Ein Sof after the Tzimtzum, and that becomes a Kav, and so the multi-pointed line. Each point has a relative position to the Ein Sof. And Eliezer shel Kav means that which is the closest to the Ein Sof. Vehi, and thus this Madrega is also b'bchinas riboy ha'oir v'hagilui. It also therefore has the phenomenon of riboy ha'oir, of an increase of oil. Well, riboy means actually the overwhelming aspect of oil, which means oil is in great emphasis. V'hagilui, and full revelation without any restraint, any restriction. V'hamadrega she'itachtena be'etzem, then the madrega that is in essence by its definition, Tachteino is a lower Madriga. Netzlo, that Madriga has emanated, has been brought forth, Bebchinas Richuk, in a Richuk manner. Richuk means a distant manner. Bebchinas Miut Vehela. And it follows that therefore it is Bebchinas Miut. There's the manner of Miut, of reduction of oir and concealment of oir. Why Mashakos will come on Perikam down? This will still be discussed a little bit later.
Oh, we're almost there.
Huh?
We're almost there.
Almost there. Okay, this is still clearly needs to be elaborated on and understood. What is the meaning that is higher and lower be'etzem? So we pointed out one thing, just to enable us to start thinking about this and learning this. There are clearly two defining factors, two ways of looking at everything on the entire Seder Ishtalshalos. From the perspective of the created and from the perspective of the creator. So I want to give a little bit of an exposition of that statement. On a very simple level.
What's the statement? That there are two ways to see the world?
Right. And that's the world. Every Madriga has two perspectives. The creators and the created.
Sure.
It is very important to understand that the Madriga is identified by the creator primarily. Everything has the creator's impact. And then it orients itself and understands what it itself is. So the simple way for us to orient ourselves in this concept is the difference between a child and a trusted servant. Avraham Avinu, as we mentioned many times, Avraham Avinu had everything that a human being can possibly ask for. And he had Eliezer, who was his most trusted servant. And Eliezer, the Gemara says, Eliezer was called Damesek. Damesek means Doilo Maske. He would transmit Abraham's teaching to all the people that came around. He was the Chayzer. Very trusted, very close to Abraham. And yet Abraham was saying, Menachem, I have nothing. I have nothing. If Eliezer, my trusted servant, is going to inherit all that I have, then I have nothing. What is that? The personal identification, personal madrega of the person is very important. But its proximity to the source is a completely different relationship to the source is a completely different means of measuring. This is something that comes milmaida lamata, that's top down. This is what it means to the source, or the creator, rather than the creator. This is what he's saying here, that the high madriga means that which is identified by the creator as being a higher madriga, as being closer to him. Whether it is representing in itself a revelation and understanding greater than Olam Hadigi, not necessarily. But in essence, it is closer to the source. As I said, this needs to be understood. Elaborate on, and he's going to elaborate. But one important principle.
Air conditioning is
Not working?
Yeah. It is working. But
Maybe it's air conditioning.
it makes too much noise, that one.
Oh, it's making noise and producing nothing. Oh, that's a very common thing. All right. So this is important to understand that things are not measured exclusively by the presence and by the metzius of the Madriya. There's an important and a subtle, which doesn't manifest itself immediately, but inherently there's a certain relationship to the source that related to the source even prior to it coming into being. Shorshu Mekoira. And Shorshu Mekoira, this is a higher madriga than in the next madriga. And here the Rebbe explains a little bit more.
Second paragraph.
Second paragraph. Kmei Beilam is Biklal, as this is to be identified. Beilam is in worlds Bichlal. Bichlal means in general, not going to a specific world. Worlds, the whole phenomenon of worlds. And you know that there's many worlds. So the Rebbe points out there are, generally speaking, two categories of worlds. The worlds that are before the Atzilus. Hein l'mayla me'atzilus. They are l'mayla me'atzilus. They are higher than Atzilus. What does it mean they're higher than Atzilus? Of course, they're before the Atzilus, they're higher than Atzilus, but they're inherently higher than Atzilus. Harei that principle that they're higher than Atzilus, shehein, the meaning of that being higher, they're higher be'etzem adrigoson by definition, not because they bear more oir and they have more expression. And what is making it? What does it mean? It's higher than Atzilus. V'hu, and the principle in this is. Here is where we come to a little bit insight. Shelamaylo me'atzilus meir atzmus hakav. That above the Atzilus, meir shines atzmus hakav, the essence of the kav. U'ba'atzilus, whereas in Atzilus, eino rag ha'oras hakav levav. In Atzilus, there is only ha'oras hakav, the ha'or of the kav, and there is not the etzem hakav. And we'll come back to discussion a little bit. Let's get what the Rebbe presents. Shezehu ilu godel miyoit. This is a very great superiority. Be'etzem mehuz ha'oir. A such superiority that identifies the etzem mehuz ha'oir, the very essence of the quality of the presence of the oir. Mehus means the reality of the oir. Not its effect, but the reality of the oir. and we'll discuss it more. Shalamayla me'atzilus, which means that above atzilus, hu mehus ve'atzmus ha'oir. This is where is reigning, so to speak, the mehus ve'atzmus, the reality and the etzem of the earth, the essence of the earth. Ba'atzilus, and in atzilus, hu bechinas gilui ha'metzius levad. In Atzilus is only the mitzius, the relation of the mitzius of the presence of the earth, not the reality of it. Shezein ha'ora and mitzius, this is in ha'ora. This is called the ha'ora rather than etzem ha'or.
But still, in Atzilus you have
So me?
Hashem in his Gameu Chab.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
So we're saying in Atzilus there's the aura of the Kav, but not the Etzem.
The Ma'am Atzilus is the etzem of the Kav. Above Atzilus is the etzem of the Kav. So the moshel that we have used to demonstrate this principle is a person has a home. His presence isn't in the home whether he is personally there or if he is absent. If somebody comes into your home when you're absent, he's still in your home, and there's still the ha'ora, the impact of your presence. This is your home, and he's going to be dealing with all the furnishings in a special respect because it belongs to you. But then there is a great difference, a fundamental difference, a principal difference. In that situation or when you are actually present in the home yourself. When you are present in the home, then you have the etzim of that which makes it a home, rather than the ha'ora on the effect of it. This is the etzim ha'or and the ha'ora ha'or. Above Atzilus is the etzem ha'kav, etzem ha'or. In Atzilus is already ha'ora. This is why, as we shall see, of course, just want to kind of point out where do we notice this difference. In Atzilus, this is the first point where there is oiris bekelim, oiris in kelim. In order to put an oir in a keli, you have to identify in the oir what's called a mitzius. Not the oil element, but the effect of its presence. That's how you're able to put it in the keli. Keli is a totally extraneous mitzias. This is something which is not new to our discussion, so I'm not going to go to great length, but like we said many times, a table represents the concept of a table as it is in the human being. But the actual table, this is only ha'ora of that reality. This is not the real thing. It says from Atzilus on down, there's only the ha'ora of the kav. Alamayla Atzilus, there is the etzem hakav. in terms of the mashal that we presented, of the presence of the person in his home or his absence in the home. The Maila Me'atzilus, there is a full cognizance, a full revelation of the source of the Oyer Yisrael from which this Kav comes from. True, it's only a Kav, but the Kav is emanates directly from the Oyer Yisrael. And there is a full impact of the presence of the Oyer Yisrael. Even though it's already in the Kav. But in the Kav itself, it is how the Kav comes from Oyer Yisrael. Whereas in Atzilus, this is just the Kav. That's called the Ha'ora of the Oyer. This difference between Atzilus and L'mayla Me'atzilus cannot be explained by virtue of increase or decrease of Oyer. Because there the difference is not in terms of the increase and decrease, the impact of the Oyer, but the reality itself. Like we said, the person that is present in the home, it's not a question of increase or decrease. It's a different state, different machines. When you are in his home, in his absence, you're going to treat the objects in the home with certain deference, not because you respect the table, but because you respect the person who owns the table. So it's indirect. It's only ha'ora of this presence. But when he is present, if you're going to start shoveling around furniture in his presence, that would be a chutzpah. It's completely out of whack, out of place. This is the principle of an etzem. He says a higher, not by virtue of the quantity or the impact of oil, but the presence itself. We have four lines from the beginning of this, of the second section of here on the page 9. At the end of that, the ha'ora legabe yatzim, ha'ora relative to yatzim, harei zeh k'moi mitzius legabe mahus. A ha'ora relative to etzem, in comparison to etzem, this is comparable to the comparison of mitzius relative to the mahus. Again, to give us understanding of these terms, mitzius and mahus, we always use these very simple Masholim illustrations. You enter this room, for example, and there's furnishings. If you have no idea what this room is all about, no idea what this furniture is all about, you just enter this room, this door, and you want to go and exit that door. So all the furnishings that on the floor are only obstacles. They're standing there and forcing you to go around. They're obstructions in your way to get to the exit door. This is called, you have the mitzias. There's a Metzius, but it doesn't speak for itself what it stands for. Whereas if you know what this is about, nothing is an obstruction. Everything has a real presence. Not only a presence, it belongs there. This is a table. Oh yeah, of course I understand what this table is doing. A table is part of this shul, of this besmedrash. It's not just a metzius, it is a mahus. It serves its purpose. It serves the purpose of the place where it is. If it were not there, then you would bring it in. Because it belongs there. That's what mahus. So he says metzius, relative to ha'ora, relative to etzem, is a similar type of proximity as metzius relative to mahus. We all understand metzius is totally stripped of meaning. Just say. So that's an extreme marshal, but nonetheless, it's a valid comparison.
So mahus is like a function.
No, mahus is reality itself, not function. Metzius is not function.
No, but the function means that there is a purpose. It's a functionality. Misuse itself has no function, it's just there.
But it's only the metzius of the function, not the mahus, not the reality itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's only the chitzonius. So this is, but the Rebbe explains the comparison, the oilemus lifnei atzilus and from atzilus on down. Lifnei atzilus is the etzem hoyer, the etzem hakaf. In atzilus on down is only the mitzius, the ha'ora of the kaf. Okay, let's continue. Again, I'm starting at the end of the third line so that we have a continuation of it. The ha'ora legabe etzem, where a ha'ora relative to etzem, arei zeh, that is k'moi mitzius legabe mahus. It is like a mitzius relative to mahus. Before we go into these fine principles, I always have to remind ourselves the principle of the, as I said, the creator relative to the created. Anything that was created has a defining element. What was created? Creator is above definition. Has no definition. A created has an explanation. What was created? Why was it created? Why is it there? And the creator, this question doesn't even apply. We cannot help ourselves but to ask the question, because by us everything is from a Metzius perspective. If it's there, how did it get here? The creator is not a Metzius. It's not a presence. It's called AYIN. There is no precedent, there's no source, cause for that presence. This is the cause for all presence. And this causes, by virtue of his decision, of his will, he wants that there should be a presence. There is a presence. It is not something that emanates automatically. Therefore, any emanation, any revelation from that, no matter how fine and real, it fails to be at the level of the Creator himself. It's still a created entity. It still has some kind of defining factor. And relative to the Creator, it's be'er shalei be'erech. It has a reason for being, a cause for being. It was preceded by not being. All of these qualities don't exist in the Creator's well. And therefore, the oil that comes from the Creator, from oil and safe, has all of these different levels. There is the oil that represents what's called etzem oil. It has more of the statement that this is coming from an etzem, from a Creator, rather than what it is on its own. It's called etzem oil. Normally, oil is identified by its function. What does it accomplish? As I said, the Creator, Atma doesn't defies this definition. Etzem oil is representative of that level, which defines that definition. Do I still have you with me?
Could this be compared to daylight?
No. Daylight is the effect of light. We're going to right now in another 5 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to stop and speaking for that person. We asked about daylight. Since daylight has been discussed a lot, and we have a little bit of a feel for it. We experience daylight all the time, but we have to remember another aspect in daylight. Daylight, as we experience it, we always say, daylight, the sun is out. But we explain all the time that daylight was not created by the sun. They preceded the sun. What does daylight in that state represent?
What happened to the shadow?
But there is no sun. What does that represent? Has no luminary. It represents the yin of oil as it is in the etzem. There's a pasuk that says, "Choshech lo yachshich mimeka." Darkness does not darken from you.
Is it darkness?
Darkness does not darken, does not block from you. You can see in darkness even as in light. In other words, you do not need a luminary to bring light in. You see whatever you want to see. The oil should never be imitation. This oil that did not have a world level explanation of its presence, of its light, is representative of the oil as it is in the answer, by Mevish. Direct creation of oil, not going through the channels, to the worldly channels. So this is, in a certain sense, representative of oil in essence. But maybe there is oil, so he put oil into the world. Again, do I still have you with me? Okay, so this is the principle that we're still getting into, understanding the concept of etzem, something which is inherently, in essence, higher, rather than by impact and by effect. In essence means it is more representative of the essence of the etzem, not representative more of oyer. This is all oyer. Etzem means representative of the etzem. Completely different phenomenon. It's not a worldly phenomenon. It's a creator level phenomenon rather than the created level phenomenon. All right, so this will be it for this morning.
Okay.
Disconnected.